Hello friends, welcome to Squaird Plans, where creative planning and organization comes to life. I'm Stephanie, and today we're going to be designing a themed planner spread in a horizontal layout. I'll be using some stamping and mixed media techniques to design the next week of May in my classic Happy Planner, so come plan with me. And I've got this washi tape here, all ready to go, as well as this Tombow dual brush pen that I'll use, as well as this water brush pen I have as well, this stamping block that I got at Hobby Lobby, and this Happy Planner sticker book, which I'll pull from. So this is the second week of the May Plannable Challenge, and this week's theme is Monochrome Mood. So if you'd like to participate, go ahead and post your spreads up on Instagram using the hashtag PlanableMay2023. We'd love to see what you come up with. Alrighty friends, let's go ahead and lay down some wax paper to get started on this week's design. And I'm going to be using just this one sticker book for the entire spread this week, since it is a monochrome theme and this book is basically monochrome. So I thought it would be the perfect book for this week's spread. Happy Planners put out a few books like this recently. I think there's a sage version, which is like in a nice soft green. If I remember correctly, they did an indigo one as well. So this will be a pretty easy way to make everything all one color and use up some stickers from this book. I'm starting off with some boxes and some of these big leaves that I have here. Not really sure where this design is going to go, honestly, at this point. Just trying things out and trying to figure out what might look good and what might, not look good. Just trying to figure things out. I pulled a lot of different elements to combine in here as far as textures and things with the stamping and maybe even some brush watercolor work. So just trying to get a nice feel for how this is going to go, starting off here on the wax paper. So I cut up a floral that I thought would look nice on the side of the boxes, and I'm doing a sort of symmetrical design, but then I don't know, I just kind of didn't like how that was going, so I pulled back on one of the boxes and I'm just going to try some different things. Honestly, at this point, I really didn't have a clear vision for the spread, so there is a lot of trial and error in these first few minutes of this setup. So just bear with me as I work through things, look through the sticker book, try to figure out what I want to bring in and the tones. One thing I did find out as I was laying things in is that the color of all the stickers does vary a bit. So some definitely have more of a softer blue-green tone, and then some really have more of a blue color tone. And you can kind of see it there on the sticker sheets, how some are a lot more deep, inky blue, and some tend to be more of that cyan tone. So I'm going to lean towards the more cyan, I think, but I want to get a feel for maybe how I might bring in this stamp as texture and a background for these stickers. So I just grabbed a sheet of paper. I have some hammer mill paper that I thought would be a good choice for laid over stamped pieces. However, I remembered that the paper that I'm using this month in my horizontal planner is the Nina paper. That's a heavier weight so that I can put more mixed media stuff on it and it not bleed through. So I'll have that linked down below as far as the paper that I printed on for the month, and then I'll also reference this hammer mill paper if I end up using it. But to start, what I was thinking is to just kind of do these ripped pieces of the stamped paper and lay those as almost background or cardstock backgrounds for the spread. But as you can see, as I start laying it down, the color is quite a bit whiter than the Nina paper, and I didn't really want that. But It is good for now to have some laid in while I work out the design, so I'm just going to use those as a way to visualize how it will look once I stamp, and I'll stamp directly onto the Nina paper or the layout itself so that I can not have to worry about that color shift of white to yellow. And like I said, I'm just going to use that as more of a guide for what I need as far as the stamping on the actual sheet. And that way I don't have to commit before I'm ready as I work out the design. So that said, let's go ahead and figure out what we need as far as the layout is concerned. I've moved a few of those items down to the bottom. I think that's where I want to center the design, around the spine, but in the bottom area. I also brought in a quote, kind of a line quote there on the side to bring in a little bit more of the color. The leaves themselves lend that design because I don't have full florals with, large stems. So them being cut off like that, I thought, well, that makes more sense to have them at the bottom, kind of coming up out of the bottom. So that's where I started. Placing in some focus boxes first before I decided on the design, just to get a feel for what I might need and to bring in color that way as well. So luckily this sticker book has everything that I need as far as the colors are concerned. We've got lots of blues and blue trimmed boxes to work with. And then I found this round sticker that I thought would be really cute, but also, I don't know, it has words written around it in a circle. I think this one says remember currently, and that really wasn't great. So we'll see if that one sticks. Not super familiar with this book. I've just recently picked it up on a clearance haul back, I think, in late February, and I haven't used it yet. I'm just again looking through. I think it would be cool to use some of these quotes, but I think I'm going to steer away from the foiled stickers and just stick with the non-foiled stickers on this spread. So that does limit a few of the ways that I can bring in stickers here. I'm going to try this big branchy look and then add in some of those smaller branches that I came across in and around the spread to tie it all together. Those quotes were really nice. I liked the long strip of blue, so I'm going to bring in a few more of those in and around the spread, kind of layer those in. Again, just seeing what all is available. And this is where I decided I didn't really like that little circle sticker, so I got rid of that. And I'm going to bring in maybe one of these little flags, just for some added variety in these clusters. This spread is definitely a very randomized spread where there's little areas to keep you interested all over the spread. And I like that. It's fun. It's a little bit harder to do, though, than doing just a more uniform look spread like a diagonal or, a top or bottom spread. So it takes a little while to work it out to a place where I feel comfortable and really like how things are sitting. I even try to bring in this very small quote with a large leaf on it, but that bold blue, I just wasn't sure I could get that to work. And it also had that blue foil text on it, which wasn't going to work out either. So decided to put that back and just stick with these large leaf branchy things and this flower head. See if I can make that work. I'm centering a lot of this decor down here in the this week area, since that is the only real space I don't need all of the day for the most part. It gives me a little bit of extra room to go bigger on the decor in that area. So that is definitely driving the look of this design, and I'm trying to balance it too with the large box sticker that's on the opposite side near the top. That just helps everything feel symmetrical but not actually being symmetrical, if you know what I mean. Just the weight of the design really makes a difference when you counterbalance things from one side to the other. And again, just bringing in a few more focus boxes, some layering boxes, and a couple small elements as well to just again create a little bit more clustery feel with the stickers. If you're new to my channel, this is the first thing that you've seen from me. I use these horizontal layouts pretty functionally. So what I'm setting up here is in preparation for my week. And then what I do is I will set in a checklist every day. So I make sure that there's room for a checklist on each and every day in the spread, as well as what I call focus boxes, which are pretty much all colorful boxes here on the spread that I will put some important event or even just something I need to make sure that I address on that day in that box. On this spread in particular, I have that nice long box, which I will use for some this week items, I think this week. I don't normally have that on the spread, but it is nice to have a little extra room when I use up that final box on the spread with more decor. It just gives me a little bit more space for those things that come up but don't need to be done on a certain day. And now I'm going to lay in some washi tape to spread that all around on the spread and maybe layer it with this striped washi. Got that dark blue. Now I'm just trying to see how I might add in some ink splatter or watercolor as another layer of color and background to the spread, using my Tombow marker first on some plastic and then wetting it just slightly so that it gets nice and loose. Trying out some different techniques, picking it up with the water brush and laying it down. So that was a little bit of a sample of what I'm thinking, but we'll see how it all plays out. So let's go ahead and move on to the spread itself. I'm going to clear out these lines that are a little bit heavy on the bottom, the black lines, with a white gel pen that I have in a 1-0 tip. It is a really nice way just to kind of clear out the background of the clear stickers a bit. That black line tends to really pop through. So I'm just going to run it along the edges of all of the days just to make it all look uniform as I set it up for the stickers and for the stamping. So now I'm laying in some of that ink, and the technique I think I'm going to use here is the kind of pooling technique where you lay some color down, slightly get it wet, and then just plop it onto the page. This one was a little extra wet. I didn't really want it to be that wet, but luckily I have that heavier paper to absorb it, and it doesn't bleed through on this almost 180 GSM paper that I have. But for the others, I went a little bit lighter with the touch, and I will just fill in with that water brush to smooth out any rough edges so it looks a little bit more natural. And that watercolor splotch at the top really didn't end up where I wanted it to show it off. So I'm going to be mindful of that as I lay in this bottom corner one. And as you can see, I'm just going to fill in those rough edges again with the water brush just to smooth things out and make it look, again, more natural. Okay, I think we need to do some stamping now. The technique I'm going to use here is just to lay down some color onto the stamp using the side of my brush tip pen, so all the color will match on the spread. I didn't go to the edges on most areas because I didn't want that to have a hard edge line on the outskirts of the stamp. I wanted it to kind of just fade out, which for the most part looked really good. There was an area where I did more like a swooshing of the brush, and you can see that on the right-handed page. So that didn't come out as good. Trying not to do that going forward on the other stamping areas. In here, I was also trying to figure out too what corners to use so that the text was upright when I stamped. And I think I figured it out pretty well, although some, again, turned out better than others. But it was fun to really get into the stamp and just lay some color down, some texture in the background, so I really like how this turned out in the end. So for that box that was not sitting well on that ink spot, I went ahead and brought it down a little bit just so you could see the ink spot a little bit better, and then put the boxes a little bit higher up in placement. And then now I'm just going to pretty much move everything over that is on the wax paper almost exactly where it was on that page. So should go pretty smoothly from here. Those boxes that I pre-cut to the edge of the page, I will go back and trim a little bit because they did not cut them perfectly straight, but I'm aligning them as close as I can and as straight as I can to the edge of the page. One thing you might not even notice, I printed this page in particular, this right-handed side, a little bit crooked, and you can really kind of see it near the top the way it gets a little bit bigger towards the outside and narrows in as far as the position at the top. I tried to camouflage it a little bit, but I didn't want to reprint the page. That happens a lot. I get lazy. It's just, once I get something printed, I'm like, I feel like I should be done. I can't be bothered to do anything else. So when I find a mistake like that, or I find a misprint, and just sometimes I'll just roll with it because it's just easier. And I tried to smooth out those kind of wavy edges that I discussed earlier, but the white pen was picking up the ink, so it didn't really work. So I couldn't really use that to soften the edges. So I just decided to let it go and work with it, because half of it ended up being covered by the floral element there anyway, so we'll just let that be. And I'll go ahead and separate the pages now that I've laid in the big decor piece and clean out the holes while I'm at it using my precision cutter and my little cutting mat. It's usually just easier to do it this way than to try to repunch the pages. I have a very temperamental happy planner punch, so I just like to end up cutting them out by hand. It's usually, like I said, less of a headache overall. That is looking good. There'll be one more step that we need to do as far as putting in those checklists I mentioned before, as well as trimming out those excess edges that I need to address. And I'll go ahead and save any trimmings that I can for future use, because you never know what you might need going forward. I will finish trimming out those boxes just so I have a nice clean edge. And then pop in these checklists. One of the cool things about this is I end up making a mistake and I could just easily go back and smooth it out and make it look like it was purposeful. So you'll see that near the end while I'm wrapping things up. But once I'm done with that, you guys, we will be done, friends. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below. Also, too, go ahead and leave me a comment if you'd like to get in touch. And think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, if you'd like to see more of my videos. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. Bye!